All right, we're back on Demon Days here with our basketball guy and Chicago Tribune Bulls beat writer Casey Johnson. Casey, how you doing today?
What's going on, guys?
Not too much. And we described you earlier as our new school basketball guy, and Sam will be our old school one. Are you okay with that?
As long as you had the word crotchety to Sam's.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Which is a good word.
And we gave Connor the nickname Son of Sam. What do you think about that one?
Ooh, I like it.
I knew it wasn't Berkowitz.
Exactly. Casey, tough series, but exciting. Do you think this is better for the team than the 07 sweep of the Heat? I just bring up that since it's the one most recent in my memory.
I do. I touched on that in an article I wrote a couple days ago about how players feel this one's a little bit different. The main reason being, to me, they have a star now. In that 07 playoff run, obviously they made it to the second round as opposed to this year, but it was still kind of a team that was probably better than its collective parts. The sum was better than its parts, and Skiles was still kind of the leader. Now you've got a franchise player in Rose, and you've also eventually got a leader in Rose, who I think will grow into that role even better as early as the second season.
Now, you talk about Derrick Rose right there. I kind of thought he wasn't stepping up like he should have in the seventh game. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I wrote something that, because we're all about digital now. It only appeared online today. But I talked to him about that fine line he tried to walk, between deferring to his teammates as a rookie and a point guard and also trying to take over games. I don't think he hit on that balance all the time. It's a tough one for him. He clearly had, to me, the most scoring ability on this team. I would say even more than Gordon in some ways, because he has the ability to get to the rim better than Gordon. But he also wanted to defer. That's kind of his nature. So he didn't master that. He certainly didn't master that in Game 7, one fourth quarter shot. And as I said, moving forward, I see that getting better.
We were arguing earlier. I think the Bulls need to re-sign Gordon purely just for scoring efforts, because I don't know who's going to score if they don't. And I do think they'll try to do it, and maybe even try to trade Heinrich. Do you think they need to re-sign him, and do you think they'll try?
I've been wearing the presidency of the Ben Gordon fan club hat for a while.
A new hat for you.
It is a new hat, but I've been wearing it for a while. I am so loyal to this guy that I blindly don't even pay attention to his horrible stretches, like 2 for 14 in the second half of Game 7.
Which is probably the attitude you need to take towards Ben.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think this is the kind of guy you got to live with his mistakes. He's got such unique skill, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think they absolutely need to re-sign him.
All right, now let's say Connor's scenario where they trade Heinrich to keep Ben plays out. How bad will the defense be next year?
Well, they're going to be bad even if Heinrich's on the team. So that's my point is that you got to play to your personnel, you got to play to your strengths. This is not going to be a good defensive team, particularly as long as Vinny Del Negro is the coach. He doesn't really have a clear defensive philosophy, and the philosophy that they use at times this season is one that I'm not a big fan of, switching screens, playing some zone, that kind of stuff. So, I think you got to try to outscore teams, and I think with Rose and guys like big men like Noah that can run the floor, I think you have the ability to try to do that.
And as you're saying there, Vinny clearly doesn't have great defensive philosophy. It also didn't look like there was much of an offensive philosophy in that seventh game there. How short of a leash do you think Vinny's on next year?
I think he's on a pretty short one. Obviously we know that Jerry Reinsdorf doesn't like paying coaches not to work for him, and he's got a 3-year deal. But with the fact that there was grumblings even during his first season that his job security might be in question, certainly raises question or speculation about what will happen next season. I do think he'll be back, and I think if they get off to a slow start, they might be in panic mode. But I think he's done some things well his first year, but I think he obviously with his in-game stuff needs to work on some stuff, and I think they'll be watching that pretty closely.
Yeah, and all of us here, I think, would agree that the Bulls would never have gotten to where they were had the trade for Miller and Salmons not gone through. I think it's inexcusable for Paxson if he doesn't win Executive of the Year. If the Bulls, as it seems to appear, they'll go forward without John. What do you think that's going to be like for them? Is it going to alter the guys they're going to try to go after or the way they're going to handle things?
No, John will still be very, very heavily involved and probably, holding most of the sway in terms of final basketball decisions. And Gar Foreman, who's going to, at some point here, probably take on the title of general manager, has been making major decisions with John throughout the past couple seasons. He handled the contract negotiations for Deng and Gordon last summer. it was a very group collaborative effort in researching and pulling the trigger on the trade with the Sacramento Kings. So I don't see this tweaking of titles and the front office facelift they're about to go through changing much at all.
And that's really all it is, right? For people who don't understand out there, and I think the way it's been portrayed in a lot of the media is that it's just a tweaking of titles, is it not?
Yeah. I mean, and this is actually very, very common throughout the NBA. You look at situations like the Bobcats where Michael Jordan holds the fancy title and has all final say in basketball decisions, but Rod Higgins is the general manager. And, for many years, although it's no longer this way, Kiki Vandeweghe was the GM out in New Jersey and Rod Thorne was the team president. This is very, very common throughout the NBA, and it's been common with the Bulls. They just haven't really publicly acknowledged it. Gar has had a very, very influential role behind the scenes. He just had a title of director of player personnel, and that title's going to change, and he's probably going to take on the title of general manager.
Let's go back to the players now. Looking into next year, Deng will be healthy. How do you see him? I don't see him at all fitting into this offense, but he's obviously going to have to play. What do you think is going to happen there?
Well, I think they've got to start. I think they've got to start acknowledging what he can and can't do in the offense and kind of cater to that. I mean, you've got, to me, the best strength of any coach is coaching to your personnel. I thought Scott was obviously phenomenal about that. He got these guys playing good defense, even though they're probably not all great individual defenders. And, obviously structured a driving kick system that really took advantage of Deng's strengths of moving without the ball. Deng is not a creator. And, for much of the early part of the season, to me, he was relegated to being completely a stationary jump shooter, and that's not his role at all. So you got to start designing some sets for him, some pin downs and some driving kick motions where you take advantage of his cutting ability and his ability to slash through the hole. I mean, you paid him a lot of money. He's going to be around, so you got to take advantage of what he can and can't do. And standing in the corner and shooting jump shots is a bad way to use him.
There's so much talk about these free agent classes coming up, and our old school guy, Sam Smith, thinks, or at least he would appear in his article, or he's trying to get a rise out of the public, which is nothing new to him, that Rose and Wade could eventually be in the same backcourt. I don't think that. You told us a couple weeks ago that when you were on the show, you thought they had a chance at Bosch. Do you see any of the unrestricted free agents for this upcoming offseason? The Bulls will go after him. I think an interesting guy to consider would be Antonio McDyess. What would you think about that?
He'd certainly fit the profile of what this organization has been after, a classy, gentlemanly pro. I think he would add something. It obviously depend on his price tag, but I think he certainly could add something. He'd add some interior toughness and not a great scorer, but a decent scorer, and it would certainly give you a little bit more stability than the inconsistency of Tyrese Thomas, who I thought made some strides this season, but then kind of disappeared in the playoffs after that Game 1 effort. So that's one I hadn't thought of, but I kind of like it.
Yeah, we actually, Connor ranted about Tyrese Thomas. I said I liked him. Connor ranted about how much he hated him earlier in the show. You were at Game 6, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Is Brad Miller slower in person than he is on TV?
Brad Miller is extremely slow and extremely funny, too. So, he gets the benefit of the doubt in my book because he makes me laugh every time I talk to him.
Casey, we can't thank you enough for joining us, and I guess you got your off season coming up, but so stay busy.
I will do that, and hope to talk to you guys again soon.
All right, thanks a lot,
Casey.
Take care, guys.
All right.
Always wanted more time to do what you